Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host and special guest, Fiona. Fiona, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Guys, for those of you that don't know, Fiona is one of our advisors, and she is one of the people that you may get onto a call with to really get some insights into your particular situation and what's going on for you. Fiona has been able to help hundreds, if not thousands of men at this point. You've talked to a lot of guys, Fiona, and guided them through and helped them navigate their relationships. And one of the things that a lot of the men say after talking to you, which I think is awesome, is how great it is to get a fresh female perspective on their situation.
Yeah, it's interesting how much we can kind of start to tell what the woman is experiencing as we talk to the guys that come through. And it's really helpful from the feedback that I've gotten from the men we serve. They say, wow, like I never thought about it that way, or I can see clearly now like what she's going through. And it just tends to help them take a little bit of responsibility. It's very empowering for them to know like how they can serve their woman better.
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely powerful because most of us guys don't have that outlet, right? The person we can
Yeah.
talk to that's got no skin in the game, so to speak, right? There's no hidden alternative motive or what have you, and that can actually give them direct insight from a woman's perspective. And it's so interesting. I watch a lot of nature shows with my son. He's turning 5 next month, right? So he's just getting into it, and he always is like, "Oh, okay." So like basically, the male species and the female species are so different. We have different names for them. Why don't we have that for people when we we assume men and women are supposed to be exactly the same, and it's just not true.
Yeah. Couldn't be any further from the truth.
Exactly. Well, thank goodness we have you on the team to help guide these guys through that perspective.
Thanks, Doug.
So one of the things I would love to talk to you about is, now that you've had some experience over these months of working with men and talking to them about their situation, how has that changed your perspective?
It's been really like enlightening, honestly. It's cool because we talk to so many just genuinely good guys who are doing the very best that they can. Um, and for some reason, right, it's just not working. Like they've tried all these things and they've talked to all these people, and for some reason, like they're just not getting it right. And you see, like, there's just this sort of like difference between what they're told makes a relationship work and what actually does. And so it always kind of brings me back to my divorce that I went through, and I just kind of reflect and I wonder, like, what if my husband had done something like this, you know?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, I was almost down that path, which I talk openly about my wife and the powerful man didn't exist at the time. And, I almost feel lucky that I was able to find my way, stumble my way for years through that. It's really tough. It hasn't been available for so many men, but guys listening to this don't have that excuse.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think one of the guys that you helped bring into the program, we had like 20 guys join last week to give the guys
Yeah.
an idea. And one of the guys that I think you helped bring in, he was on a call that we call office hours that Tim and I jump on to answer questions once a week. And he's like, I haven't even been through the program for a week. And my wife's already noticing changes. We went on a date, and she's like, wow, like I can really tell that you are up leveling and changing, and it's really sexy.
Yeah, there's something just innately sexy about what goes on for men when they do just sort of like take control and take power and start to do things. You can't help but notice. Like guys are always like, "Oh, well, like oh, we don't see each other that much anymore. We're separated, or is this going to work?" And I'm like, like women, we can smell this from miles away. Like it is just so obvious, like heads will turn kind of thing. And it's not even complicated what we do, it's just the little things that make such a big difference.
Yeah, it's a for most guys that it's almost a paradigm shift, right? What the classic scenario, and I don't know if this was in your previous relationship or not, but I know this is for a lot of us guys. I did it, right? I was running 3 companies, playing high level competitive sports, doing all these very masculine things. And I went home and I was like, okay, what do I need to do to make her happy? I'm gonna, talk about, okay, I'm gonna clean the kitchen and it's gonna be amazing. And then I'm gonna vacuum and I'm gonna get everything ready and dinner and because I'm gonna be a better husband. And my wife comes in, she's like, why didn't you clean the oven? I'm like, oh, then I explode. I'm like, oh, screw this. It's not working. Yeah.
Like, why did I put all that effort in if she's not even gonna recognize it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
We get caught in that nice guy trap.
yeah, and the thing is that, like, you guys are so good, like, business owners specifically, right? And men in general, you're so good at, like, fixing problems and swooping in and making decisions that a lot of times when the guys come home, they're like, "Oh, well, she's doing a great job. She's got this," and so then we're left to kind of, like, take care of things on our own, and w a lot of times that's just exhausting for us. We're looking for that man to step in and sort of, like, take control in the family like he's doing in the relationship because that helps us so much to relax, and just be more present, and it makes us feel like we're not alone. And I think
Yeah.
what a lot of guys, like, don't realize is, yeah, your woman is strong and independent, and maybe she's a feminist, right? But she still needs that partner. And so when you're kind of checked out, well, we start to check out too.
Yeah, it's really, yeah. There has to be somebody leading the relationship. There's has to be any relationship when you have more than one person. There's naturally has to be a leader and there has to be polarity. And, we talk about this bell shaped curve, right? So people on extremes in both areas, but typically feminine energy, and most women would fall into that naturally. Feminine energy would likes more so to be led, right? It gives them feminine energy the freedom to be creative and wild and express themselves in unique ways. But when they don't have that safety of having the masculine energy there, they can't get into their own power. And so they're not safe. And so what happens is a lot of times is the woman needs to take that control for that safety. And she becomes the quote alpha in the relationship, which is the masculine part. And that's not sexy. She's not able to relax, like you said. She's not able to let down her guard. And then her husband just becomes another kid or another burden to her.
Right. And then if for some reason all of a sudden the guy does want to come in and take lead or make a decision, we don't trust it. It's like, hold up. Like, where are you coming from? I've got this. I've had this. Even though we desperately want that, it's hard for us to accept because it's like, well, now does he not trust my leadership, or why is he swooping in all of a sudden? And so it's kind of one of those things where we start to kind of push it, right? Challenge that leadership because I've been doing it so well on my own, and now you're coming in trying to take over. And I know, like, if I push you hard enough, you're just gonna crack. You're gonna stop doing it, and that proves to me that, yeah, I'm right. He doesn't have my back, or he's not, the leader I am. So it just kind of was like this this vicious cycle.
And it really is. And so guys go into what we call DEAR mode. And DEAR is an acronym for defend, excuse, explain, and the last one, of course, react. And so what your lady's going to be doing is what Fiona talked about. We call it a shit test. Is she's going to test you, and she has every right to do it, especially if you don't have a proven track record of being able to handle things. Like this manifests an easy way of talking about this, Fiona. The one that I hear about a lot to the guys is money, right? The
Mhm.
woman, when things start to go wrong in the relationship, he starts making bad decisions or what have you. The woman comes in and she wants to know much more about where the money's being done, how it's being invested, what's happening there, because she doesn't feel as safe and she questions all the things that are going on within the marriage. But it can start off as a symptom, like kind of like a sniffle could be for a cold, is questioning about, well, where's our money? What are you doing with the investments? How is it being managed? And not that a woman can't do that, because a lot of times I know a lot of women who are way more capable than I am. However, again, talking in generalities here, this is a common symptom that shows up in a marriage.
Right. It does kind of bleed into different places. And I think one of the interesting things that the powerful man did for me was really like put into words all these feelings that I had. Because as you know, right, women we're very emotional creatures. We don't think the same way men do. We don't behave the same way men do. A lot of times we'll find ourselves just frustrated or exhausted or, in a bad mood, and we don't know why. It takes us time to process and figure out, like, okay, what is it that's frustrating me? And so it was really, really eye-opening when I came to the powerful man, and I'm learning all of this stuff, and I realized several things about myself as a woman, like, that I was missing before. I'm like, this is why that was so frustrating. This is why that was so frustrating. And I just thought back to, my marriage. And I'm like, what if I had been able to communicate that to my husband in a way that he could understand in his like logical male brain? Would that have changed anything?
Yeah. I mean, it's a question a lot of the guys will ask. And, a thing that we talk about often is a lot of us men and a lot of guys I'm sure you talk to and I talk to, they just wait too long. They put it off as long as possible, just hoping things are going to change. It's kind of like, all right, I'm going to pour a couple cocktails. I'm going to go to bed. And tomorrow, let's just pray that everything is good. And they've been doing that for years. And guess
Oh
what? It's
gosh.
just getting worse, not better.
Yeah, there's this thing that I love to talk about with guys who come through. I don't always bring it up, but if it seems appropriate, there's warning signs that happen that guys don't realize until like divorce papers are on the counter or the wife is like looking for another place to live. She's packing her bags. And that is that like women and men process relationships very differently. And so we all go through sort of like the stages of grief when a relationship is ending, similar to if somebody that you love dies. I mean, you're mourning the loss of a relationship. And so, women, we do it before we leave the relationship. We want to know that we've exhausted every option. We've tried to tell our man in as many different ways, as many different times what we need, right? And so we deny that there's a problem, and then we get angry, and then we're like, please, can you just do this for me? Like, can you do this, right? How, like, you want to know how to solve the problem, here's what I need, and then it doesn't happen. And so we get depressed about it, and that can last for a while. But when your wife is checked out, here it is, like, this is her falling, right, going into this depression. She's on her phone all the time, she's watching TV, she wants to go out with her friends instead of hang out with you, and you're wondering why. And it's this. And then all of a sudden she's like, okay, well, I've tried everything that I possibly know how to do, and she accepts that the relationship is over. And that's when she decides to end it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, you're spot on. And whenever I think of that and I'm listening to you, I'm like, okay, 50% of marriages end in divorce, right? Those are odds that if we're all of us think we're the other 50, right?
we
Percent.
hope.
It's in there. So 1 out of 2 is ending in divorce. And over 70% of the divorces are initiated by a woman, right? Guys, now let that sink in, guys. 7 out of 10 divorces are initiated by the woman. And typically what happens, this is why so many guys, Fiona, they find out about another guy, right? Because oftentimes, and I'll use my simplistic terminology, but a woman will go through those stages. She's ready. She's made a decision to exit. And oftentimes, she's also already identified a safe landing spot. For some women, it's the apartment or the house, the place to live, like you said. For
Right.
other women, it's a man that's going to be there to fill that role, or maybe someone she's run into who's got the masculine characteristics or something different, or maybe it's a different job, or she has the plan,
Yeah.
right, in her eyes.
Yeah. And it's funny because what you see like time and time again is that as soon as the woman's at that point and she's got the, like you said, the apartment or the other man, the landing spot, right? The next safe place for her. That's what she needs to exit the relationship, right? She needs that first because we're planners. And oftentimes when she gets to that point and she's ready and she's made that decision, that's when the guys jump in and they're like starting to do all the things that we've communicated to them that we need in a relationship. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. So you did hear me and you did understand me and you did realize that there were things that needed to be done in the relationship. You just chose not to do it. And that's when you're like, well, I made the right decision, because then at least you know that they understood what you needed.
Yeah, what the nice news is, and you've experienced this, we have so many guys who have been served the divorce papers or separation. I talked to a guy today who are able to turn it around relatively quickly, right? And there's two things you need to know about this, guys. One is don't save it till it's too late. Two, if you are, there always is a ability to pull it back. However, if you start showing up all of a sudden as the man that your wife has always known you can be, and by the way, guys, your wife knows your potential. She knew it when she married you, right? She married you as, like I always say, it's like an investment. She saw where that stock could go, right?
Potential was.
Yeah, she's like, okay, this like buying IBM or Google. She's like, this stock is going to rise. It's got a lot of potential here. And when that stock doesn't rise and actually goes down, right now she's got to sell, for lack of better terms. But when she starts seeing you show up as the man that she's always known, she gets two things. One, she gets instantly excited. Second thing, she gets scared. And that's when the real big tests start coming your way, and it makes complete sense. Because why would she open up her heart again after she's closed that chapter, so to speak? Now, and she wants to open it up. She wants you because she loved you originally and she sees you and now you're doing it. And she wants to believe it, but she's also scared she's going to get hurt again.
Yeah, there's this thing that's happened, right? Is that slowly over the course of the relationship, we start to build this wall where it's like, okay, well, he didn't come home when he said he was going to come home. There's a brick,
Mm-hmm.
right? He didn't change the diaper. He didn't help with the kids. He said he was going to fix this and he didn't. Like, brick, brick, brick. And you start to build this wall, and you're making it strong, you're making it safe because you're protecting yourself. And so, yeah, when he swoops in and he's trying to take some bricks off the wall, you're like, hey, wait a minute, this is what I built to keep myself safe. So, like, what are your intentions with that brick? And we want to push it, we want to poke holes in it, because we don't trust that now all of a sudden you're going to continue to do the things that you've been promising for God knows how long, months, years. So it's hard to let that guy back in, because once that wall is down, you've just opened that chest wound again. You're just setting yourself up to get hurt even more.
100%. And guys, this is why we use the Powerful Man. We have a 3-pronged approach to this called the Triadic Connection, right? And so if you can imagine what Fiona's describing is perfect. And if you can imagine when you first, like scales, like the justice scales, I like to talk about those things a lot. And when you first start dating, right, it's all good vibes, good experiences, good feelings, and the scales are tipped in your favor, right? That's kind of the running joke that we talk about is, you can fart and everybody giggles, right? No big deal, right? Or you could leave the toilet seat up and it's okay, not whatever. And over time, little resentment bricks, as you said, start to build, and those scales start to shift. And when they get to neutral, they start shifting the other way a little bit faster. And then now the toilet seat's a fight. Now, little things that are around there are disgusting. And I can't believe you said that, or whatever it is. They turn into arguments. And add kids into the mix, work into the mix. Things get tough. And now the negative experiences far outweigh the positive. So that's where we come in with the Triadic Connection, clean slate method, right? You wipe the slate clean. So you no longer are looking at the past. So that brings the scales to neutral at least. And then the hidden motives technique, we use that to bring the positive feelings back into the relationship, right? Let her feel validated. You get, as a man, get to do all of that. And then how do you keep it there? That's the live like a king system. And so that's exactly how you shift those scales, guys, and get it done. Now it takes work, and every woman has like I said, the exact right and should test you. In fact, we often talk about it. If your wife is not testing you, that is a bad sign. That means she just doesn't care.
Totally
And
checked out.
she is so checked out that it's ridiculous if you're putting in the work. But we don't see that very often in the Powerful Man, because the guys are doing the work. And Fiona, tell me if I'm wrong, because my wife can smell a mile away if I'm working on myself, if I'm working out more, if I'm eating cleaner. If I don't say anything, she notices. And not only does she notice herself, but if we're out and another woman notices, my wife notices doubly. Is that fair?
Oh, totally fair. I mean, you show up in a different way. You can't tell me that if you're feeling that like a better version of yourself because you're finally taking care of yourself the way that you wanted to and should have been for however long. You can't tell me that you don't stand a little bit taller or there's not that like brightness in your eyes again. It's there.
Yeah. And again, guys, this is like renewing your stock, right? This is like a stock going up in a hockey stick like growth. And from your wife's perspective, this is where you get to make a major shift and see it. And that's why guys, some guys just join the program and that's almost all they need, right? Because then their wife's like, wow, you're taking this seriously. And then they get the tools and techniques, and that turns, a dead marriage not only saves it, but then turns it into one of passion where admiration, respect come back in, frees the wife up. The kids, that's the one that always gets me, is when guys talk about like, hey, yeah, my marriage was saved, but what was amazing is my kids have completely changed. And that's where I get emotional because I have two kids, little ones, is just thinking about they are always watching, and they're watching mom and dad, and they're watching how we behave. And so they're constantly watching whether we decide to exit the marriage, right? And I have no problem with that. Just do what you want to do, but still do it with grace. Do it as the best version of yourself.
I love that. I think it's so cool to watch because guys come to us like, please, I want to save my marriage. And in the process, they save their families and they become a better version of themselves and a better father to their kids. And then they start to actually model for them the relationship that they want them to have. And it is such a cool thing to be a part of.
Yeah, it really is. And what you guys don't know is I get to meet with Fiona and the rest of the team every week. And we spend most of our time celebrating the men in the program and all their wins. We literally have to cut it off because there's so many every week of these guys. And it makes sense, right? So once one area is going well for you and another area, it starts stacking and it's like a snowball like effect. And guys are like, my business is all of a sudden taken off. I'm not sure what happened. Like, well,
Yeah.
I wonder. You're working on yourself. You're better. You're coming up, as you said, Fiona, showing up as the best version of yourself.
Yeah, and it's been such a neat thing to see too because we get we get on the phone with these guys when they're at these low points and sometimes they share stuff with us that is so deeply personal that they've never shared with anyone else. It's honestly an honor, but to see these guys get uncomfortable and like take this leap of faith and be like, well, you know what I've been doing hasn't been working and I believe that this can work and I'm willing to give it all I've got. And seeing them on the other side of that 8 weeks and just seeing the transformation and the genuine gratitude that they have afterwards is so humbling. It's beautiful. It's really cool.
It is super cool. And I love that you're getting emotional about it because it shows, no, but it's true because we do this on the calls. You guys, so we almost all the guys that are in our alumni and our program also listen to this podcast. And I can tell you guys that Fiona is constantly checking in on you guys to see how you're doing. And that's because she cares. And that's not something you teach to anybody, whatever. It's just genuine. She gives a shit. She cares about your success. And that goes for everybody that's involved in what we call the movement here. And it's not just getting on the phone call. When you get on that phone call, she's going to make sure you're going to the best place possible, whether it be with a powerful man or somewhere else. That's what she's doing and also giving you insights so you can start reaping the rewards of success right away.
Yeah, I always tell guys, we look to add value, regardless of whether or not you decide this is right for you or whether or not you're a good fit. We are here to help. We're here to give value. And if we're not the great fit, we're going to point you in the right direction or at least give you, like you said earlier, that woman's perspective on what you're going through so that you might be able to, know what next steps to take to get a happier, healthier, more passionate and fulfilling marriage.
It's true. I almost feel bad because, we have male and female advisors. And now all these guys listening to this are going to get a call with one of the guys. They're like, oh man, can you patch Fiona in, please? I want to talk to her.
Yeah, I'm going to need a woman's perspective on this one.
Yeah.
I'm happy to take it.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. I love it. Well, Fiona, in closing, you talk to so many guys that are out there. What are one or two suggestions you can give a guy that's listening to this right now? Things just aren't working out at home and he's trying. What would you suggest?
I always suggest getting real with yourself first. You need to really see exactly where you're at and meet yourself there and just be brutally honest. It's not fun, it's not comfortable, but you're not doing yourself any favors if you're not just saying, hey, this is where I'm at, now what? And the second thing is to take that and be empowered by it, right? Because we can take it one of two ways. We can take it and be like, oh, well, shit, I'm here. I guess I might as well give up, or I don't know what to do. I can't do anything about it, right? And you can start to make excuses and play, the victim in all of it. Or you can step up and take responsibility. And 100% maybe it doesn't work out, but are you going to feel better, knowing that you gave everything that you possibly could have given? Or are you going to wonder, like, what if I had done this? What if I had taken these steps? What if I had tried harder?
I love it. I mean, it is, guys, I've been there. It is hard being in a marriage that is not working. It is really hard working on yourself. What Fiona's saying, guys, is you get to choose your hard. It's going to be hard. One has a really good outcome, the other one a crappy one. So if you're going to choose a hard, go the better route. Fiona, thanks so much for being here, guys. Fiona is one of our advisors. Obviously, like I said, we have a couple of male advisors. You've heard from Mo, who's one of our female advisors, Ryan Peach. We also have Jake. You can look back at the podcast, get a chance to meet them. They're real, genuine people who just care. And Fiona, if a guy wants to get on a call, can he actually request to speak to you?
Sure. I mean, you can request any of the enrollment advisors. I would say, like, I love to help. And I know that it doesn't matter if a guy gets on my calendar or one of our other 3 advisors' calendars. He's going to be in good hands.
That's awesome. I love it. Absolutely love it. Guys, as we always say, in the moment of decision or in the moment of insight, take massive action. If you've been on the fence with just even getting on a phone call because you're just not sure or you're a little worried or nervous, hopefully getting a chance to meet Fiona and hearing her story will help you push that. Choose your heart, gentlemen, and we'll see you next time on The Powerful Man Show.